for our walkabout this morning. It's kind of an interesting place, a beautiful little oasis just outside of Kingman. And this is a great example of how history can tell two totally different stories, and they're both correct. Beale Springs was a very important part of Western expansion, our manifest destiny, if you will, as a country. But for the Wallapai people, the Surbad clan of the Wallapai, it was a genocidal invasion. Both are correct. Two different sides of a story. This is a great little place for a morning walkabout. It's just a mile or two from downtown Kingman again. For the Surbad clan of the Wallapai people, this was, because there's an all year round spring here, obviously this was a very important place for them. It was also a sacred place. And the first European explorations of the area were Father Garces apparently camped around here in 1776. And then, of course, all the American explorers camped here. Lieutenant Sitgreaves, Lieutenant Beale with his camel caravan, who is the namesake for the Beale Springs. Before the railroad crossed to northern Arizona, the Colorado River was the funnel for bringing everything into northwestern Arizona. And they built a road from Hardyville on the Colorado River. That'd be about roughly in the area of Davis Dam down around Bullhead City, Arizona. They built a road from there to Fort Whipple up at Prescott, Mojave Prescott Toll Road. And they had a stop here at Beale Springs. And during the Wallapai Wars, the military set up an encampment here to protect the road and the area, settlers, miners, ranchers. And with the subjugation of the Wallapai people, this became the first, well, for lack of a better word, internment camp for the Wallapai people. And then it came the Wallapai Trail of Tears. People were marched from here down to the Colorado River Indian Reservation. They grouped a lot of tribes down there: Navajo, Apache, Wallapai, Supai. Wallapai means people of the blue-green Havasupai is the people of this blue-green water, and Wallapai is people of the tall pines. You see kind of why this is another one of the wonderful places just within spitting distance of Route 66 and downtown Kingman. Makes for just tremendous morning. See the quail on the trail ahead? Well, lots and lots of history here. Then after the Wallapai Wars, the Camp Beale Springs wasn't really needed too much. It became a ranch. There was a hotel built here. 1913, 1914, an automobile road was placed through here, going out towards Chloride, White Hills. And the springs was later used for water supply for Kingman, Arizona. You'll find lots of remnants from all kinds of things out here. Excuse me. There was a swimming pool here. This was the Boy Scout camp for many years. Today it's incorporated into the Surbat Foothills Recreation Area. And there's probably 30 plus miles of wonderful, wonderful bicycle trails and hiking trails, ideal for photography. Just a beautiful, beautiful area. And like I say, we're just a couple miles from downtown Kingman. The traffic noise you hear is Highway 93, which is right over here. Now, I-11 is going to cut through here just behind those hills, the low hills right in front of us. And the blue mountains there, of course, are the Wallapai Mountains. That's the ones I talk about a lot, our pine forested oasis up there. You can see this is desert country, but it's exceptionally dry the last few years. I wish you could be out here this morning. It's about 74 degrees, just a nice slight breeze, and you can smell the greasewood and the brush. And if you listen, you can hear the quail and the other wildlife. Now, if you'll see straight ahead, you can see this becomes a road, barely discernible. You have, like, say, a 1914 automobile road. If you go back up the canyon, just before you get to the summit, there's a cut, and you'll find some old bridges that were put in the 1913 to 1914 period. And you can also find remnants of the wagon road through the area as well. You can just barely make out the road right here. This area here on the other side of the highway and part of the Surbat Foothills Recreation Area is an area they call Monolith Gardens, a miniature monument valley. Now, of course, no camping is allowed down here. When I was a boy, it was a favorite spot of ours for a little bit of camping. Like I say, this is ideal for mountain biking or hiking. And you have well over 30 miles. Colorado River Trail Alliance working with the Beale. Put a lot of this together. You'll see here they have little kiosks that they've put in and show the various locations when Camp Beale Springs was here. It's kind of hard to picture, you know, everything that was here. It's been so many years, but you can still see remnants. You spend a bit of time in the desert and you can pick out old foundations, roads, things of that nature by the lay of the land. For example, you can see this was a road here, used power lines. Officers' quarters. Just an absolute perfect morning for this. Scared out the quail this morning. You do want to, when you wander in the desert country, when it's warm weather, please, please, please pay attention to your surroundings. Watch for snakes. Rattlesnakes and coral snakes are the big poisonous snakes out here. We have some other critters that are a little bit on the nasty side too. I have no idea why this was dug out. Possibly storage? With the exception of the traffic noise just over the ridge and the intrusion of the power lines, you can really imagine what this was like when it was the home of the Wallapai people, or the far fringes of the western frontier. And you can follow this trail system miles and miles back up into the canyons. There's quite a few artesian wells and springs back in the country. Up here in Johnson Canyon, there's a really nice little spring and stream. It's really hard to believe that there's water in this country. We're about to get a nice Arizona sunrise. Back to normal temperatures this week. Seasonal temperatures, I should say. Mid to high 90s. And we'll have about the long range predictions are for another excessively hot week next week. There's mesquite trees, salt cedar, this is just kind of a preview. I like to not only tell people where to go, but I like to show them where to go. Through the crowdfunding and whatnot, we're on our Patreon platform. We are trying to get new equipment together, more equipment to make the walkabouts even better. This episode, you know, if you really appreciate this program, I want to give a shout out to the supporters of our crowdfunding initiative on the Patreon platform, and Louis Keene down at Uranus Fudge Company and General Store. He signed on as a sponsor for these On the Road with Jim programs. And as always, I'm glad you could come with me. And if you're in the Kingman area and you need directions to any of these places, drop me a note, Facebook Messenger, or through the website, Jim Hinckley's America. And I try to respond in a timely manner, and we'll sure get you directions. You know, our history is a complicated thing. It just really is. And sometimes it becomes, it should never be one-dimensional. Here's the swimming pool that I mentioned, or the remnants thereof. It always bugged me in school. History was taught in a manner that made it as dry and dead as an insurance seminar. And it's really kind of fascinating. It's multi-dimensional. There's a lot of gray areas. One of the problems with history is we first, to really understand and get into history, we need to develop the mindset, the eye. Beautiful old mesquite tree right there. We need to first see the period, and a good historian, a good writer can accomplish this. You don't want to, you can't see history through 21st century eyes. If you're reading about Abraham Lincoln, a wonderful book was A. Lincoln, one of the best books I've read on the president. And you have to first see the world as it was at that time period. And then you can kind of understand and appreciate, and you can feel. You have a deeper sense of the history that way. Beautiful smell here this morning. Let's see if I can do this without getting myself drenched. And you can see why this was such an important place. True desert oasis. You can see why I like to get out in the mornings too. The mornings are just absolutely perfect here. Do me a favor though, if you do come out to these kind of places, take your trash out with you. Maybe even pick up some of the trash that's there. Remember, if you brought in a beer can or beer bottle or pop bottle or water bottle, chances are it's not as heavy as it was when you brought it in. carry it out. Keep the place nice for the next person who comes and visit. Show a little respect for the people who were here before you, and for the people who are coming here after you. This is just kind of a preview of Beale Springs. Like I say, it's one of my favorite little places for a walkabout. I'm glad, as always, I'm sure glad you could join me this morning. And show you one more little item down here before we button this up for this morning's episode of On the Road with Jim. We're back where we started from here. This is the main gate, but there's several other points. You can you drive up the road around these hills up by Red Ghost Canyon, and then there'll be another turnout with a parking lot up on the hill. And then on the other side of the highway, on just the last road leaving Kingman, is Metwell Drive. And if you follow that back about 200 yards, there's another parking area. And you can access trails on that side of the road. And there's an underpass up here, up the canyon about a mile, where you can cross under the highway. But mountain biking or hiking, there's just miles and miles of beautiful trails here. Show you a few more remnants here, the history. Once you know the history here, it becomes very exciting, very somber. It's a great place for contemplation and reflection. You know, imagine yourself a Irish immigrant, and you come to the United States, and to get yourself ahead a bit, you enlist in the United States Army, and they send you out to a place like this. Just imagine that in the 1850s. The edge of the world. Like say the city of Kingman got their water supplies, part of their water supplies, from here. Back in the early 20th century. A little tidbit for you. In the late 19th century, because the water table was quite close to the surface in the little valley where Kingman, the old section of Kingman, is. And Kingman was called the Windmill City. There were so many windmills downtown Kingman. You can see walls, various purposes, and I'm not going to claim to know what they were all for. But a lot of work went into them. For terrifying. But you know, when I first moved out here in the summer of '66, and I tell this story often, but I felt this was the place they warned me about in Sunday school. But I've really come to love this country. And as much as I love Missouri and my home state of North Carolina and the hills of Tennessee, I just have a hard time imagining living any place other than the deserts, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. This country is just amazing. And like I say, the Wallapai Mountains, it's one of the things about the desert too, is the diversity within a spit and a hop of your front door. About 20 miles from where we're sitting right now is the Wallapai Mountains, and it's pine forested. It's elk in the parking lot of the Wallapai Mountain Lodge. Everything's just within shouting distance. Well, folks, I thank you for joining me this morning. I hope you enjoyed the walkabout. I'll be archiving this on our YouTube channel. You can find all of our videos there. Coffee with Jim, and our Sunday morning program, and other walkabouts we've done through places like the ghost town of Glen Rio and the Stockton Hill Wagon Road, and other locations. So, with that said, my amigos, I'm going to go find some coffee and some breakfast and get my butt in gear for another work day. Got quite a few little projects I need to address today and button up. Well, until we meet again, mi amigos, vaya con Dios.